Welcome to the 2025 Jakarta Futures Forum studio session, Venture Capital Equity. Why is it so hard? I'll be your moderator today. My name is Julie Leutsinger. I'm the co-founder at Ghost Dynamics in New Zealand. And with me, I've got Daniel Tumawu, the managing director of the High Incubator in Jakarta, here in Jakarta in Indonesia. And we've also got Ashok Malik, who's the partner and chair of the India practice at the Asia Group in India. In 2024, female-only founding teams secured just 2.3% of global VC funding. And that share, it gets even smaller as those startups scale. So this isn't just an entry problem, it's a systemic one, rooted in biased networks, skewed risk perception, and a capital culture that defaults to what's most familiar. From who writes the checks and the myth of the scalable male founder, to the growing backlash we're now seeing against diversity initiatives, this session will unpack why closing the gap when it comes to equity and venture funding still remains such a far-fetched goal, and what it will take to close it, especially in an increasingly polarised world. So we've seen the data year after year get littles shifting. What's really driving this persistent funding gap? Is it founder pipeline, investor bias, or the way deals are sourced? So, Ashok, given your policy and capital markets perspective, what are the biggest forces keeping this gap in place?
I think it's clearly systemic. There's both a demand problem, as it were, as well as a supply problem. There are too few women founders who come up there with pitches. With too few women on investment committees, there are too few women as general partners. So it's a vicious cycle. It's very much still an aggressive growth club, which is a bit strange because in other aspects of the broader finance ecosystem, banking especially, or even investment funds, participation by women has increased in recent years, in recent decades. It's still nowhere close to 50% of where it should be, but it's certainly more than these numbers which you've just related. We can all guess what the reasons are, and all of us could be right, and all of us could be only partially correct. But I would imagine somewhere a culture of risk-taking, which is endemic to this industry, as it were, is encouraged when it comes to men, to our sons. Encouraged a little less when it comes to our daughters.
Yeah, good points. And Daniel, from your incubator perspective here in Indonesia, from the founders that you work with, do you see a real shortage of investment-ready women-led startups, or are they just not actually being seen by the investors? What are you saying?
Yeah, I agree with Ashok. I think it's systemic. Yeah. We do see the situation getting better, but I think generally slowly. I mean, we run angel networks, right? Yeah. And angel networks are usually former founders who become angels later on, right? So because of that, mostly the founders are male, and then they grow into investment communities that are also male dominated, right? Yes. And you see this in I think in various fields, including that the investment opportunities are also given to like informal circles, right? Yeah. Informal circles where you also see
which they're already a part of.
Exactly, male dominance, right? Yes. And I think lastly, we also need to agree that sometimes we're also a bit too lazy to look for enough underrepresented. Let's say the sheer size of male in the ecosystem is larger, and if we look for employees, if we look for founders, if we look for new angels in the network, it's just easier to recruit male, right?
Okay. And then is this then what we're talking about really about who's in the room when it comes to those at the investment or investor table, the decision makers, or are these rules just so baked in that it needs more than that increased female representation?
Look, they are fixes, and none of those fixes is going to solve the entirety of the problem. But they are fixes. If you look at India, for example, there are a number of government funds for startups, not quite VCs, I appreciate, and much smaller ticket size, bottom of the pyramid entrepreneurship, as it were. We have the Startup India program, we have the Small Industry Development Bank of India. They actively go out there looking for women-led enterprises.
Yes.
But look, those are government-backed, public money-backed. They have the space to do it, and they have the mandate to go out there and look hard enough. What is the solution for the broader VC ecosystem as we understand it? I don't know, but there's something that happened in India some years ago, not with the VC industry, but with publicly listed companies. The government mandated that a certain number of directors needed to be women. Obviously, they use a lot of protests to do when we find the women and all of that. And the initial influx of women directors was, frankly, wives and sisters and girlfriends of the male businessmen. But gradually, quantity led to some quality. Because when you had a woman at the table, you told yourself after a couple of years, I'd better get someone to contribute. So you look for a better woman, or you pick the woman.
Yes.
Enable the woman. And I'm not suggesting quotas or something, but perhaps those who put money into VC funds could mandate that you need to go out there and look for a certain percentage of women-led paths.
Yeah. And so, and then when we talk about the women then in these partner seats, have you actually then, observed yourself, you talked about, company directors, but have you seen in that VC space or investment space, the actual, have you seen women in those partner seats able to meaningfully shift those funding outcomes? Have you?
Well, it's
You're still trying to tell.
Look, a good woman investment committee member is going to take judicious decisions as much as a good male member. It's not something that she will do is going to be completely dramatic. Yeah. And it's not like he'll go out of her way to encourage women sort of seekers of funds either, because she's looking for the best opportunity.
Of course.
I think somewhere we just need to fix the quantity problem, because the quantity problem will be fixed before the quality problem. There will be quantity which will be dubious, I agree, but from that you have quality. I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer, but it's a bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Daniel, when your founders pitch to mixed gender panels or female investors, do you notice a difference at all in how they're assessed? Just coming back to that actual, what are we seeing on the ground?
Yeah, agree. It's kind of hard to immediately notice a difference, but I would say this. So we always try to find mixed panels of judges, mixed panels of angel investors. We just had a pitch event recently where we tried to create it, and out of 5 people on the panel, we only had 1 woman, right? And then I asked her afterwards, like, what is your take on this, and how do you perceive founders? And she said she had to admit herself to me that she said, like, in this world, I have to be the alpha, I have to be dominant, right? And I realized, okay, that's the perception here still. So we are still not.
You have to play a character almost. Kind of, that's maybe not quite familiar. No, I know that as a founder myself, definitely. So if you could change one thing tomorrow, and I know you've mentioned a few ideas here, Ashok, whether it be policy, incentives, industry practice, that would meaningfully move us closer to equity in venture funding for women founders, which would you choose? Which one? What's one thing that if we were to start? You talked about quantity. Is any other levers that you can suggest?
I'm wary of government-regulated mandates, to be honest. I know sometimes there's no option to them, but I'd like it to evolve from industry. I'll give you an example. The Asia Group is a business consultancy. We work with a number of big clients in India and across Asia and the West, the US. In fact, you work with New Zealanders, as well. Now, and when I joined the Asia Group 3 years ago, one of our biggest clients, a mega giant internationally, met me and said, look, we're facing pressure from our investors, from private equity funds and other investment funds and bankers, even in some cases, sovereign wealth funds that invest in a company, to work with consultants, to work with partners who are sensitive to diversity and especially gender equity. There's a perception that your firm has a number of very capable male leaders but not enough female leaders. Could you fix that? Can you India substitute? So that was a demand and we worked on that. It's not that we hired the first woman we found. We hired very capable, but we went out there and looked for them actively because there was pressure on us, market-driven pressure, not pressure from the government. If there could be some variation or some analog of that in the VC world.
Right. And Daniel, what would, from your perspective here in the incubator, what would most help women founders in Indonesia break through? We could be talking about funding or training, networks, or, and you talked about those closed networks or something else.
I think it's a bit all of the things you mentioned, right? And we need to work on the quantity, need to get more women into the programs. We need to support them with more access and so on. So it's a bit all of the above. But I think also on the investment side, we just ran an angel program called Angel Studio, and we are very happy that we actively searched for a lot of women investors, and we had a representation of 40% women investors, which is a very high number, right? Yeah. And that's like a community that we can keep growing. So it's word of mouth, and I think so. It's again, quantity, and then that will eventually
so people like you in your role in the incubator and ensuring that kind of thing happens as well. So that's great. And I guess just as a little bit of a closer, we started this conversation with the headline that female-founded startups secured only 2.3% of this, global VC funding last year. So if we could then rewrite this headline in 10 years, what would it say? Is it going to be, do we think we'll see that 50-50, what you were talking about before, Ashok? And do you have any last thoughts on then how will we get there?
In 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
50-50 in 10 years, it sounds great. It would be nice to see it here. That we should equal it, but it's unrealistic. To be honest, in 10 years, we get to even 20%, it would be a week.
Yeah, because it's systemic. It's a systemic problem. Yeah. What about you, Daniel?
Agree. Maybe we start with us, so maybe next year's panel will also have women on the topic, right? So starting from there, but I also agree we have to work on the numbers, right? And hopefully the headline will come up with a higher
and take more risks on women as well for the investors. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice. That is